A couple of days ago, I was on the Twitter sphere, examining the things going on around comic books, and there was a tweet from DCU Updates, and it just slapped me right in the face, and I was like, oh my goodness. This Lantern series that I still have some hope for is just going to be awful. When James Gunn started selling the creatives behind it, and I started thinking about it and remembering some of the times I've seen them not only work just with DC characters, but specifically with Green Lanterns, it's never worked out. And this is going to be bad. I can already feel it. It's guaranteed to really just fuck up the Green Lantern Corps, and I don't think this is going to go very well because I think the talents involved were very, very poor choices. Let's start off with what I'm talking about here. The truth is, Chris Mundy and Tom King and Damon Lindelof wrote an amazing series, like an incredible series. I'm so excited for people to see this. It's very grounded, very believable, very real. The kind of things that you would never think that would be the truth about a Green Lantern television series. A very human, adult, and wonderful. And the story they wrote fit a couple of actors who were these ages, and so that's who they cast. Those were the choices. I totally backed them up. I love them. That's James Gunn talking about Chris Mundy, Tom King, and Damon Lindelof. Now, Chris Mundy, as far as I know, has never actually worked, certainly in comic books, but I think around comic characters. As far as I know, never been a producer like on a comic book movie or television show or a screenwriter or any of that stuff or a video game. I don't know that he's ever actually worked with superheroes. So I have no idea. I know that he did Ozark. Ozark was a fine show. Didn't love the ending. It's hard to nail an ending on a show like that. It's just kind of the way it is. When you build something up like that and you have so many twists and turns and you got to get the whole thing back together in working order before it ends, it can be a difficult trick to pull off, and I don't think he pulls it off. In Ozark, if you haven't watched it, I do say go check it out because for the most part, it's good. The two other names, the ones that are really just like flashing at me, Tom King, Damon Lindelof. Tom King, longtime writer at DC Comics. Mother was, I believe, an executive at Warner Brothers. He's a legacy hire, to that company. He decided he was going to be a comic book writer, and he's been writing Batman almost since the day he arrived at DC Comics. Now, he did do a little bit of Nightwing before that. I believe he did, was Swamp Thing before that? Well, he certainly did Mr. Miracle. Well, I guess at the same time. But Tom King almost arrived directly at the top. Damon Lindelof, I don't believe he's ever written a comic book, but he has written a comic book TV show called The Watchmen. Not a lot of people love that interpretation of The Watchmen. And not only did he work on Watchmen, he worked on Lost. And a lot of people didn't like Lost. In fact, as you will soon learn, James Gunn, not a big fan of Lost and Damon Lindelof's work on there. But we will start off with the enormous elephant in the room because we are a comic book channel. I'm certainly much more familiar with Tom King. I've made a lot of videos just about how destructive he is. And as soon as I saw that tweet and that information that was out there, all I could think of were two moments in time, DC Comics, Tom King writing, when he actually wrote Hal Jordan. Let me set these up for you. Let's go to Heroes in Crisis, number 9 from Tom King, featuring the dumbest Hal Jordan Green Lantern take in the history of comic books. Hal Jordan, the greatest Green Lantern of all times, the literal personification of sheer will itself in the DC Comics universe says, and I'm not joking, let's be honest, right? I don't even know what the hell will is. Do you? The dumbest single panel probably in Green Lantern history, like in the history of DC Comics. And Green Lantern's been around for a while. He is, in fact, a Golden Age character. Been around for like 80 years. The single stupidest take, the dumbest panel in the history of Green Lantern comic books, written by Tom King, the guy that we're supposed to trust, has written an amazing humanized story for the Lantern series. Now, while Tom King was at DC Comics, and he still is, but when he was primetime Tom King, he was a writer on Batman. DC Rebirth, at that time, this is a Green Lantern series starring Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. Written by Robert Venditti, and I believe in the very first issue, Hal Jordan does not have a Green Lantern ring. He's stranded, marooned, and actually, because his will is so pure, he forges his own Green Lantern ring out of his own pure will. That's who Hal Jordan is in the DC Comics universe. Tom King was literally there when that moment happened. And he was so stupid to say, I don't even know what will is. What does that even mean? It's just a word, see? I'm an idiot. Literally. The personification of willpower, the DC universe doesn't know what it is. What a stupid fucking take. And that's not really out of continuity. That's in continuity. And that shows you just how familiar Tom King himself is with Hal Jordan and Green Lantern, and also demonstrates to you that Tom King does not care who these characters are. He doesn't care what motivates them. He doesn't care about their backstory. He doesn't care about the core traits of the character. He will write them however he wants to because he's a fucking idiot. Now, there's another moment in time that I remembered specifically. Tom King writing Hal Jordan came right to my mind. Let's go back to Batman 45, part 1 of The Gift from Tom King. Booster Gold goes back in time and prevents Thomas and Martha Wayne's death. That's why it's called The Gift, because that was Booster Gold's gift to Bruce Wayne. In this alternate reality, the story opens up with Hal Jordan using his later ring to literally blow his own head off. Because I guess in that case, he had so much will, he overpowered the ring and was able to commit suicide. If you read Tom King comic books, there's a lot of suicide. There's lots of kids dying and stuff like that. Now, I understand you're going to say, what is an alternate take? Why would the deaths of the Waynes not happening in Crime Alley lead to Hal Jordan becoming the Green Lantern, but being psychotic and blowing his own head off, or being so depressed and blowing his own head off? I take it as more psychotic just because of the way that the page itself is illustrated. That is a terrible take on Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, and it's just an edgelord take. That's Tom King doing stuff because he wants to do it, not because he likes the character or has any respect for Hal Jordan or Green Lantern. And that's why putting him on a series like this, and that's why, James Gunn leaning on Tom King to really be his comic book continuity character guy is such an absolute abomination. It is one of the worst decisions I can ever imagine an executive making, leaning on the guy that literally fucks up every single character in the DC universe every time he touches them. Look what he's doing to Wonder Woman right now. Totally screwing the character up. Look what he did to Batman. They had to remove him from the title. We're hearing all about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It's going to be a movie. It's just a rehash of True Grit. And if you go and read True Grit, Supergirl in Woman of Tomorrow is Rooster Cogburn. There are no similar traits between the two characters. He just made Supergirl into Rooster Cogburn because he's a fucking idiot. And this is the dude, the right-hand man of James Gunn at DC Studios, that's helping him with the characters and mapping out all this stuff, and is one of the lead writers on Lanterns. I don't know what else to tell you. There's not a bigger warning sign that this thing is going to go completely off the fucking rails. You will not recognize Hal Jordan. You will not recognize John Stewart. You will not recognize really any of the Lanterns because Tom King doesn't like this stuff. He doesn't care about them. He wants to mold them and break them into whatever stupid thing he wants to talk about. Now, the other elephant in the room is Damon Lindelof. I believe Watchmen, the show on HBO, might have won some awards or something, but it's a very contentious thing. People that really like Watchmen and like what Alan Moore did with that, a lot of times are not in love with what Damon Lindelof did with the Watchmen TV show on HBO. Not a real exact interpretation. In fact, Alan Moore hated it, and this is what Damon Lindelof had to say about that and the appropriation of Alan Moore's characters. So I'm channeling the spirit of Alan Moore to tell Alan Moore, fuck you, I'm doing it anyway. And then later stating, I think that when it comes to Rorschach, there is a meta idea that is embedded in the show that we're writing about appropriation. We understand that we're approaching the original Watchmen and that characters in the show are approaching iconic ideas like the Rorschach mask from the original Watchmen. Rorschach is dead. He's not around to say, you got it all wrong. Basically, I don't care what you think if we got Watchmen right. It's not supposed to be Watchmen. We're just taking your concepts and the skin of your characters and the ideas that have been so popular over the years, and I'm going to use them to my own benefit to tell the story I want to tell, but not remain true to the core components of the character and stuff like that. An enormous issue amongst geek culture, I don't know, for the last decade. The term appropriation has probably been pretty apt at what's happened, whether it be in comic books or animation, certainly in movies, video games, where these big companies go out there, they acquire the IP, they don't like what it actually stands for or the story that it tells, so they want to use it as a vehicle for the stuff that they actually want to tell. And they own it, they can certainly do that, but they have alienated basically geek culture, specifically male geek culture in the process. You know, a lot of comic book fans, Marvel fans, DC fans are like, what is going on here? Not only in comic books, but certainly in TV shows and movies and stuff like this. And Damon Lindelof is one of the dudes that thinks that's a great idea. Do you think he's going to give you a true interpretation of what Gardner Fox and company created with the Green Lantern? Are we going to get a real interpretation of Hal Jordan? Are we going to get the best interpretation of John Stewart? We know we aren't, because we've seen what the dude does when he takes other people's stuff. He breaks them, much like Tom King does. Now, will this be mitigated with oversight from James Gunn? We don't really know that. James Gunn is a very successful director. He's certainly a good writer. And we've seen him do things that are good. You know, is Peacemaker a very good interpretation of Peacemaker, like the Charlton character? No, it's not. Is the version of Vigilante that we get in Peacemaker a good interpretation of Vigilante from DC Comics? Absolutely not. Absolutely terrible. When we see Batman and Superman and the Justice League show up at the end of Peacemaker, is that a good interpretation of the Justice League? No, it kind of just takes an enormous shit on him. So it's not like he loves to stick to the core components of the characters, and certainly hasn't at DC Comics. I think he did a better job over at Marvel Studios, obviously with Guardians of the Galaxy, but he's not exactly somebody that's going to stay firm and true to the characters, especially when it comes to DC. And we know that Damon Lindelof doesn't want to do that. In fact, he told Alan Moore, the creator of Watchmen, to go fuck himself with his own original characters. And then we've obviously seen what Tom King has done, where he goes and destroys everything that people have created and put their blood, sweat, and tears into, because, you know, Tom King's more important than Bill Finger and Bob Kane. You know, fuck those guys. I'm Tom King. My mom worked at Warner Brothers, and I'm a fucking legacy here, kind of thing. And those are the kind of people that we get. Now, we also do know, and I mentioned it earlier, that James Gunn, in the past, has not been the biggest fan of Damon Lindelof. In fact, this is what he put up on social media, and it's still up there. I think it's 12 years old. Way back on March 18, 2012, the DC Studios co-CEO and Superman director said, Lindelof is close to Satan in my book because of the end of Lost. He's the Uri Geller of storytellers, a total scam artist with no integrity whatsoever, and a liar. Now, he might have been just a little too emotional in his response to the end of Lost, which I do agree is one of the worst endings I've ever seen on a TV show. And Lost is truly the TV show that taught me, once you can see that it's not going in a good direction anymore, stop investing, go find something else to watch, because it's never going to get it back. I should have listened to that when we got to Game of Thrones in the last few seasons, and I was like, what is going on here? I totally regret doing that. And Damon Lindelof and Lost, and certainly Game of Thrones, are the ones that taught me, don't fully invest in stuff. Be ready to eject when you need to. But the co-CEO of DC Studios did call the man close to Satan, a liar, a scam artist with no integrity whatsoever. Yet he's out here talking about how he's the greatest guy in the world. It's kind of weird, isn't it? I think that was hilarious. So that's my favorite part of the entire story. So even James Gunn himself, who's proclaiming that he's got this great series with these great creators, knows that at least one of them is a complete jack-off scam artist that has no integrity whatsoever. So I would say buyer beware on Lanterns. Definitely check it out. If you like the first, the first show, the first episode or two, get in there. But be prepared to eject, because we know with the history of Tom King, he's going to destroy these characters because he thinks it's funny, or because he's depressed and he wants to talk about his mommy issues or his wife issues or whatever it is that he wants to stuff in there. Damon Lindelof is somebody that doesn't stick to the true concepts of things that have been created by other people. He likes to fuck with them and then tell them to go fuck themselves. And he will certainly go off the rails. And, then you'll be good. You'll be ready to eject, and don't expect anything. And if you get a single episode that's good, they've exceeded expectations. If you get a whole season, they've greatly exceeded expectations. And if you never get anything worth your time, they've given you exactly what you should have expected. Nothing, because Damon Lindelof, Tom King are a part of the team. And we'll see on Chris Monday. We'll see what happens there. Very interesting stuff there. Do not fully buy in. This thing is going to be a clusterfuck. I can already see it. The people involved dictate that it must be. As Dr. Phil once said, a great man, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and the past behavior of Lindelof, Tom King, and even James Gunn himself calling out Lindelof for being a scumbag lets me know this is going to be an absolute shit show. If you like what we're doing right here on Think Critical YouTube and you would like to support us, I do want to invite you to visit me on Think Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. We have lots of stuff going on like this, mostly with our good friend Aaron Sparrow. All kinds of conversations about movies, comic book movies, TV shows, but certainly we hit the comic books as well. If you're interested in all these heroes, you will learn more on Think Critical Patreon than you will on any other YouTube channel. I guarantee it. Hope to see you there very, very soon.